All right. It's over. All Out is over. That was a lot of content here. I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to miss something in the content. You can ask me below if I miss anything from this show, because what did we get here? We got like almost 10 matches. Almost. I can't remember how many matches. Like 8. Wait a minute. Let me see. 1, 2, 3 for the kickoff. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. I think 11. 10 or 11. I think about 10 matches. I'm not sure. It's a lot to remember. And I'm going to miss something. So if you want to ask me a question about something I missed, just leave a comment below, because I'm going to make it clear. I'm going to forget something. You see the title. I'm not going to tell you the show was bad, because it was damn good. But the last match is a big question mark. Did they go too damn far? You saw what they did there. I don't know what Alex and I don't know what JD had decided. In fact, when this goes up, it'll probably be about 3 something in the morning. And it won't be because my computer can't handle rendering and actually putting all the images together, because I am going to put images in here. My computer can run it pretty quickly, now that I got a mini PC that can actually handle it pretty well. No, I literally chose not to start recording until I saw the last match again. I had to. I had to evaluate what I was dealing with. But let's go through the rest of the show. You can see what my thought process here is. The first 3 matches were on the kickoff. And to be honest, I felt like 2 of them could have been left off the show. Look, we got the Iron Savages versus the Acclaim. Why? Why? Just so to be on the kickoff? They could have gone to Dynamite. I think they didn't need to be there. Then we got the, the Premier Athletes versus the ROH Tag Champs, which is Dustin and Sammy Guevara. You know who won that. Was it a DQ? I can't remember. I can't remember what the match was. I think it was a DQ. But I'm not remembering. No, wrong. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the next match. The champs won. Then we had the trios triple threat. I believe it was a triple threat, because I do believe it had the Bang Bang Gang in it. It had the Top Flight in it. They had the Undisputed Kingdom in it. And I think at one point, because I had to go to the bathroom, I saw Dark Order, but then I didn't see them anymore. I think they were taken out, but I'm not sure. But Undisputed Kingdom won. Now, let me make it clear. If it was a fatal 3-way, because it looked like it was a 3-way, it went 4-way, then it became a 3-way, that one I can understand being on the kickoff. But the other 2 matches could have been left for Dynamite. I'm saying it now. They were not bad matches, but they didn't need to be there. Main card. MJF versus a Daniel Garcia. We knew they were going to go all out on this. I mean, yeah. That's the name of the show. But when you look at what we got for the first match, and understand, the vid pack was good before the actual match started. I did like the vid pack before the match started, before MJF came out. And all that mattered to both of them when it came to Daniel Garcia and MJF was to hurt the other one by breaking their neck. And it reached a point where it was very physical. Eventually, Daniel Garcia did eventually win. He did win. I'm not going to fill in all the blanks. You have to watch the match yourself. But when you saw that, what am I saying he won? I'm sorry. You see, there's a lot to remember. My mistake. I got the reverse. Hey, I'm dyslexic. I do things in reverse. I do get things in reverse. MJF did win by a low blow. I'm sorry. I got that mixed up. He did win. But Daniel could not stand it when MJF wanted to shake his hand, because I do remember that. And he literally knew, and that is Daniel, that he was going to get fucked. So he waited. He shook his hand, raised a hand. He was about to get nut shot at the end, but he nut shot him first. And then he gave him the tombstone pile driver. think he gave him one pile driver, then he gave him a tombstone pile driver. No, he gave him a tombstone pile driver first, then he gave him the same pile driver he got 5 weeks ago. Now MJF is... But what does that mean for Daniel Garcia? What does that mean for MJF? This is where things are going to be a big question of how far they're going to go with the story with Daniel and MJF. Because I don't know where they're going to go with this. I can't tell you it's going to be great, but it is something for MJF to be doing because he's not back in the main title scene right now. They had him do the international title, which became the American title instead of the world title or the TNT title. The question is, where would they go for both of them? I don't know. Next match was a tag match. The Blackpool Combat Club versus EVPs for the tag titles. Now, the Blackpool Combat Club, they already have the the trios title, well, 6-man tag from ROH. Aren't they the 6-man tag champions? I think they are. The 6-man tag champion. No. The trios champions. I'm sorry. I'm getting this trios and 6-man tag because Dustin is also the 6-man tag champion with the Von Erichs. Since I don't watch ROH, I had to remember that the 6-man tag championships still exist when they should not. When they merged them, you would think that would be the end of it. No. But it was a good match. In the end, what did we get? The Bucks won. Not saying that was good, not saying it's bad, it's just what I'm expecting. The Bucks are on a limited schedule, and to keep them relevant, you gotta leave the titles on them. I'm not saying that's right, but that's what they're doing. Next, the match I was looking forward to the most. Nexus Swerve and Hangman Page. Not saying Daniel Bryan and well, the scapegoat, that was, I'll get to that one in a minute. This was the one I was looking forward to. But I'm going to be honest here. I did not expect Pac to win. Come on. There's no way they're going to make him job. He just won the International Championship back. Will is not going to job here. He's not. But I'm going to tell you this. As someone who's a Pac fan, I've always loved Pac. Did I like him when he was Neville? No, because he sucked as Neville. He just did because they didn't do anything with him. But as Pac, he is a character I do like. He's a bastard. I know he doesn't give a fuck. He's going to do what his own rules say. And since they made a story about Pac being the... Well, technically, as a high flyer as he is, he's the first generation high flyer that set the path for the second generation of high flyers in the Will Ospreay. They're not related, but the high flying scene would not be... from Europe, and particularly UK, would not be as prevalent as it is, if it wasn't for Pac and a few others. That's the truth. This match, I can easily say, was a classic. It was. You're dealing with a Will Ospreay who is a very good high flyer. There's no lying about it. He's very charismatic. He's good. But he's dealing with a Neville who did go to WWE when it was called WWE. He understood the concept of when you do psychology in a match. Many high flyers do not get it. Or worse, don't care anything about it. They just don't. It's very rare to actually see a high flyer who understands sometimes you need to take your time. Or the need to pick your spots just right to make it look good. And when it came to Neville, he's that type of person. And he made that match. Taking nothing from Will. Will did his job. He did very well. And he won his match. But it was Pac who made the match. He made it. That's my boy. He made it. For me personally, I really want Pac to be more. But you'll know I'm going to talk about when it comes to Bryan Danielson in a couple of minutes. And the question is going to be what's going to happen next. But I will tell you, if you're a fan of high flying, you're going to love the match. If you're not a fan of high flying, you're going to find it mostly okay because you will notice that when it came to Pac, he did show psychology in the match, unlike Will, who did not. He's not that great when it comes to psychology of how to make the match really mean something. Look what Pac did in the very opening of the match. When Will was trying to get some momentum, trying to make the fans cheer, Pac rolls out the ring and just walks around to screw up the entire thing on purpose. That's psychology. That made him boo even more of Will being cheered. Just saying. Next match. We got... Well, this is going to be a hard one to... Not that it's hard, but let me give it to you like this. If you compare the TBS Championship match to the Chicago Street Fight with Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale, this was better. I'm sorry, I will talk about that in a moment. I'm going to skip around because I'm not going to do the Fatal 4-Way for the Continental Classic first. I will do the women's first. When you look at Chris Statlander with Willow look, I'm not going to tell you that the storyline between Willow and Chris was good at first. It wasn't. Because they kept dragging it and dragging it out and dragging it out. And it looked like they didn't want to do it at one point until finally someone said, probably June Peppermint, I believe that's her name. We need to do this now. Why are we dragging this out? And it finally got done. Chris Statlander turned heel. Then she tried to go after the Duran Duras, I believe, title. No, CMLL. CMLL's title. She tried to go after that title. And I can tell you this. I was not fond of it because it took so long to get this done. But as time went on, it wasn't too bad. And then we get this match, which, compared to most street fights I've seen with women, this was one of the better ones. It was pretty good. See that Chris Statlander did a split on top of thumbtacks. That one, hadn't seen yet. Hadn't seen one like that yet. And she sold it very well. Actually, she had to sell them because she got tacks in between the thighs. But it was a good match. But in the end, who won? Chris Statlander won. And the story of seeing Will almost feeling sorry for Chris at certain points, but had to do what she needed to do, fine. That's not bad. It was done well. The one person that was a bit annoying was Hathaway. I mean, he ran off at one point. He finally came back and he raised the arm up. It was all right. But I will say that this was way better than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie. I did not think the street fight was going to be great, but it was way better than I thought it was going to be. Now, you look at the TBS Championship. Hikaru Shida versus a Mercedes Moné. I'm not going to lie here. There's no story behind it. It felt rushed. And it didn't feel important. Even with Camille removed from the equation, it didn't feel important. I knew they were going to have a good match, and it was a good match. There's no problem with it. It was not all bad, but admittedly, you could see that something was off near the end of the match. And at certain points, they were really being very rough with each other. So, I'm not saying that Japanese wrestling doesn't get rough and tough after a certain time. And I'm sure Hikaru Shida must have talked to her and said, look, we're going to be rough with each other. And she said, all right. We got that. But there were certain points in that match that felt like, does Hikaru Shida have a problem with Mercedes? Because there were certain points that Mercedes did not want to sell. And then Hikaru Shida didn't want to sell near the end when Mercedes was using her left knee as the focus. Because remember, she attacked the knee. And she did a dragon screw in that knee. And I believe she chop blocked the knee. And Hikaru Shida legitimately at first did not want to sell. Not saying that can't happen, that it'll look like it's alright. But you got to sell at least a little bit when you've already shown not one attack to it, but nearly 3 attacks on the left knee. I believe it was the left knee. And she didn't want to sell at all. Only after like the 5th or 6th time did she finally begin to sell. And even then, she barely sold at all. And I've seen Hikaru Shida sell things. And she will sell. So that's where it was getting a little confusing. Why wasn't she selling? And it wasn't because she can't. Because I've seen Hikaru Shida sell. She'll drag it out a little bit before she'll do it. But there, she got at least 3 hits on that knee. And she didn't want to even sell the knee. And I'm going like, what's going on here? Of course she lost. There's no problem. I was not surprised she was going to lose. I'm not surprised. But the question is, why? Fatal 4-Way for the Continental Classic. You got Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe. You got Kateska. And you got Okada. It felt too safe. I'm being honest here, guys. I'm being honest. I would have liked someone else other than Orange Cassidy in that place. I can understand you want to put Mark Briscoe in there because as an ROH champion, he actually would give it something extra. But with Orange there, it felt too damn safe. Now, did Orange do a bad job? No, he didn't. But it's not the point. You want to make this Continental Classic feel important. And it didn't. Because you had the regulars always in there. Of course, Okada's got to be in there. Konosuke Kateska, who has barely done anything. The Alpha has barely done anything. So him being in there, I'm not surprised. Mark Briscoe's barely even had an option to go after many titles other than the ROH World Championship. So I was fine with it. But when it came to Orange, I would have liked him not to be in there. Even though he has a great, strong connection to those type of titles. I would have rather him not be involved in it. I didn't want him to be involved. Who I would like to be involved in there? You could have stuck Brian Keefe in there. Yeah. You could have stuck the Murder Hawk Monster and Lance Archer. Who, and understand this, before I go any further, I'm sure people are wondering, why didn't you do your SmackDown review? Why didn't you do your Collision review? Guess what? They were both very formulaic and I was not interested. Collision was very simple. All the ordinary people we always see in the main event were put into the main event. And when you saw what happened in SmackDown, I only saw half of it. For most of it, I wasn't that interested. So I didn't do a review on that either. I'm not saying I hated Collision and the part of SmackDown I managed to see was garbage, but you're doing the same thing over and over again. I'm sorry. So I'm not surprised Okada won that match. I am not surprised. I am not surprised. That was not a surprise. Seeing 10 suplexes, or was it 15 suplexes? Each of the guys did a suplex. Over again, and over again, and over again. And we did get some good interaction with a little bit of elbow to the face when it came to Okada, when it also to Kateska. So I think that story is going to improve. But then when you look at Kateska and you look at Fletcher, when they're working with Don Callis, what happened to the story with Will Ospreay breaking away and then having a fight? Nothing. It just feels like someone decided we should do the Will Ospreay breaking away eventually and then letting him go through the entire Don Callis family. Then I know that Powerhouse Hobbs got hurt. And then we didn't even see anything much of Trent anymore. And the only person we got is pretty much Kateska and Fletcher, and that's it. And they just dropped it. So it feels like it's unfulfilled. That's just me. Let's move on to, let me see if I'm forgetting anything. International tag. I will say this. If you guys notice, there were two strange glitches that was going on. We had the first glitch on the first match at the beginning of the card. And then the fourth match, there was also a glitch where the screen just flickered. I don't know if that was an actual problem with production or was that a hint about something. But you guys tell me below what you think. Now, Bryan Danielson versus a scapegoat Jack Perry for the World Championship. Hold on. I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. TBS International. I believe I spoke of everything. I've forgotten anything. I'm sorry. Just leave a comment below because it is already past 1. And there's so much to remember. And I had to re-see that last match again. And I'm going like, I'm going to forget something. let me give it to you like this. Was the fans invested in this match? Yes. The final countdown song is still very over with Bryan Danielson. He's over. And seeing the beginning of the match, where Jack Perry tries to out-wrestle Bryan Danielson, and every time when he gets something, he goes, was that a good thing to do? Yeah, that's pretty much Jack Perry's attitude. I am the best. See it. I had to be the scapegoat to everything. When you look at most of the match, it was scary that some of these moves they did really made me nervous, particularly Jack Perry was fine, but since we know Bryan Danielson's neck is going to need surgery by the end of the year, it makes me nervous seeing him take some really nasty blows, and it made me nervous. I'm sorry, it did. I got nervous about it. I know he was fine, but yeah, you get a little concerned because if you saw Total Divas, like I did, and when he was just trying to pick up a fork and go, ugh, and he says, my neck, that wasn't a joke. I've seen Total Divas, and I saw how he was responding with his neck, and that was just about the time when he was had to be forced retired. So knowing this, it made me a little nervous, but it wasn't something seriously bad. By the time this match ended, it was done very well. It was the second best match in the night for me personally. The first was, and understand, by pure wrestling, not story. This is second best story of the card. But the best match quality, that would be Pac versus Will Ospreay. This is second best for me personally. When you see the ending of it, when Christian decides to come out, well, technically, Kill Switch comes out first, nails Bryan, and then we get to stare down between two that have not even talked to each other, and that's Jack Perry and Kill Switch. You hear the music of a Christian come out, and the entire family comes out, and he's got the contract, and then you see the Blackpool Combat Club come out with Pac to block them from trying to do something now that Bryan had finished. And Christian decided, I'm going to pick my spot. I'm not ready yet. And he goes away. You see Moxley get into the ring. He hugs and kisses Bryan Danielson. Bryan is so happy that he won, and Moxley's hugging him. He's kissing him. He's putting his hands up until he nails his ass. And then you can see Wheeler Yuta going, what the hell is going on? And Pac's holding him. So, no, it wasn't Wheeler Yuta. Wait. I'm sorry. I'm getting things confused. It was not Moxley who nailed Bryan Danielson. It was Cesaro. I'm going to call him Cesaro for this one. The evil one, we once called Cesaro, has reared his ugly head. Claudio Castagnoli has now become Cesaro, but we're going to call him Claudio Castagnoli. And Bryan is shocked. And then we get Moxley grabbing him around the neck, but with a plastic bag wrapped around his face. And I'm like, are they legitimately going there? Instead of just whacking him and knocking him down and wiping him out, Moxley's taking a bag, since he is one of the people that you know as a deathmatch king, in a sense, next to a Matt Cardona. Because I know that Moxley would do it as well, because he has done it. He got a bag, wrapped it just enough around his face that he has air, and he's looked like he's choking him out with the mask. I mean, not the mask. I'm botching here because they went there. They decided they want to break the Blackpool Combat Club away from Bryan Danielson and to do something entirely different. Marina Shafir was there. Pac is holding Wheeler Yuta, who's crying, saying, why are you doing this? Why? Stop it. And when it was all said and done, they left. Wheeler ran over. They took the mask. Well, not the mask, but they took the plastic bag off that was like a mask on him. They gave him oxygen, and everyone is concerned. And pretty much the commentary team is upset like hell. And as JR always says, he doesn't want to know nothing. He doesn't want scripts to know nothing. So for him, because JR was the one who was out there doing the match as well, he was appalled. He did not expect that. He was upset. Good. That was a good reaction. There was no problem with it. I enjoyed it. But I was surprised it actually went there. Now the question is Moxley going after the title? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be going after the title. He's proving a point. Look, if the rumors are correct, which they are, we know Shane McMahon is coming. The question is going to be, is Shane McMahon going to join the Blackpool Combat Club? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know about anyone else. For me personally, there may be only two reasons why this is happening. They're rebooting the Blackpool Combat Club without Bryan Danielson there. And it's going to be Wheeler Yuta and Bryan by themselves. And the rest of the crew is going to be by themselves with Marina Shafir. And they're going to just roughshod everything by themselves. Or they're going to have a leader. And it's not Moxley. It's Shane McMahon. He's paid them. Next to paying them, he's convinced them that this is the wrong way. We need to do it our way. That's the reason why he keeps asking for Darby Allin, one of the pillars of AEW, because if I'm right, you want Shane McMahon to have someone that is important to be by his side with the Blackpool Combat Club. That's just me. I'm probably wrong. But you guys tell me below what you think, if I make any sense. Now, here we go. Final match. Steel cage, unsanctioned blackout match with Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. Like I said in the beginning of this video, hang on. I had to start it over. I did not want to stop in mid-sentence. As I said in this video, I had to watch it twice. Not just when I was writing my notes. I had to watch it twice because of how it went down. It wasn't no different than any steel cage where people brought stuff in. And what did we get? We got in the very beginning, before the cage was even fully lowered, you got pretty much Swerve attacking a Hangman Page to make sure that he didn't get his opportunity. Then you see Prince Nana throwing stuff into the cage before the cage finally came down. And then they went to work in the ring. And for their credit, doing a little bit of PCO. They did a PCO. If you don't know the match between Steve Macklin, I believe it was Steve Macklin, versus PCO, where it was a street fight, PCO legitimately got his lips stapled together. That was not bullshit. That actually happened. PCO got his lips stapled together. That was not a joke. The staple gun that they were using was a real staple gun with real staples. And in this situation, same thing. The staple gun was used on Swerve. Swerve had staples in his body. He literally started pulling them out and acted like it didn't even bother him. And when Hangman Page got it, he was crying like, as they used to say when I was a little kid, a tick on the back of a dog that was a hot dog. Well, actually, I didn't hear that one. Basically, he jumped like crazy every time he got those staples. He got staples in his back. He got staples in his chest. Swerve brought out pictures of his kids, stapled it to his face legitimately, and then pulled it off, and then his face was bleeding. This was not a joke. They were using staples. This was like a death match. Except, this is a death match. They were like about this low to it. I'm being honest here. They were about this low. The only thing that were missing was fluorescent lights. And if you remember what happened in the street fight between Chris Statlander and Willow, Willow got a group of fluorescent lights and smashed it onto Chris Statlander. So that was there. I think it would have been more effective here, but it was alright seeing it over there. I kind of wish they'd done it here. But they were using utensils. At one point, a cinder block was brought out, and that is some dangerous shit. When you saw Hangman Page get pretty much gory bombed what was it, a gory bomb, I believe, onto that cinder block. Part of his back was messed up. You would think, please don't let it be anything worse than that. And it was, because once the power bomb happened and Swerve's back hit the edge. Understand, this was the edge right here. This is the edge of the cinder block. Swerve's back, I believe his left side of his back, hit that sucker. Oh, that can mess up your back a lot, man. I'm sorry. If it doesn't give you herniated discs, it will knock something out of place. That was not good. But still, things were fine. It isn't something that has been done in steel cage matches. When you got the utensils, you're going to use them. Eventually, we got a piece of the house which was burnt. It was like a shank, shape of a shank. If you don't know what a shank is, it's a kind of a pointed blade that would, well, not pointed blade, it was kind of something pointed that can break up ice. That's what it used to be. At least that's what I was told. But in this situation, the way shanks are used now would be in jail and someone's shanking your ass. But essentially, how I knew, because I had a brother who was in jail. He told me. But anyway, it was burnt. It looked like a piece of pointed wood and like a stake, and pretty much they were trying to stab each other with it. I don't know if I am putting images in. I don't know if I got that image. But as it was going on, and eventually Hangman got it jammed into his head, I'm thinking, this is the worst we got. Good. Because they're really trying so hard to make this important. But then, nearing the end, Hangman pulls out a bag. I believe it was a bag. It wasn't in the box. It was a bag. And after nailing Swerve in the back multiple times, he said, beg for mercy. And Swerve's pretty much laughing. He refuses. You see Hangman grab something from a bag after he really nailed Swerve very hard. And also, one point, Swerve nailed Hangman so hard up against the steel cage, where he gave him that nail behind the head. I think I got that shot. It's in my face. But when you see Swerve on the floor, he already had his grill removed. You see a Hangman Page grab a syringe from the bag. And I'm going, no, they're not going that far, are they? Are they really going to go that far? And then he pulls it off, the cover. He pulls it again, and you can see the needle jams that bitch right straight into Swerve's mouth. Everybody's going, oh! And I'm going, okay, we got a problem. Because I don't know how people are going to respond to this. And it's not the people at Chicago. Chicago's bloodthirsty like New York. We don't give a fuck. But we're talking about how the fans outside of an arena is going to respond to this. Because once that was done, and it was fully injected into his mouth, that could have just been saline, or it could have been Novocaine, you never know. Pulled out, and Swerve pulled it out himself. You got Hangman legitimately picking up the chair, and a full headshot, which legitimately bowed the seat. And that was it. It was over. Swerve was finished. Hearing Prince Nana in certain parts of that match saying, you got to do what you got to do for yourself. Do what you got to do for yourself. And I'm thinking that this is kind of ironic, because that is what AEW is trying to do. Do what it's got to do for itself, because of all the controversy that's been going on with CM Punk, with Jack Perry, what happened with the Bucks, what happened with Kenny Omega, what happened with Ace Steel. Then the problem when you hear over and over again that these stupid attitudes that Tony has been showing. Instead of focusing on the show, he's been focusing on everything else and reacting to people's attitudes and criticisms towards AEW. Even what happened with a Britt Baker and MJF, that has also been announced. And it's like, this kind of feels like what they've been trying to do. Trying to do anything they can to get people to pay attention to them and stick. Because if you look at the ratings, the most they had, I think last week, was 620,000, or the week before that. They went from 1.2 million 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, and maybe near 3, because they were near 900,000 maybe 3 years ago, or 950,000, to now 600 and maybe 20,000. They are bleeding people from watching their shows. They may still be getting good money for merchandise. They're still getting good money for the pay-per-views. They're still getting good money from the networks. But when it comes to the audience who are supposed to be at Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, ROH, they're dropping. And that is a bad thing. And this feels like they're trying to compensate so hard that I feel like this might have gone too far. Not because I hate it, but you're still having to deal with the fans that are not in the arenas. What I've always told people when it comes to TNA or Impact Wrestling, when it came to stuff like this, everyone in the arena is going to love what's going on because it's being catered to the arena. But you're forgetting about the people at home. If the people at home cannot watch the show because your camera work is garbage, your lighting is garbage, your audio is garbage, why do you want to spend money on a damn app or pay-per-view? Why? Why would you do it? It's stupid. It makes no sense. That's the reason why I keep telling people over and over again that TNA needs work. They need to work on their camera work. They need to work on their lighting. They need to work on their audio. They need to work on their storylines, because many of the storylines are still very, very Impact-esque. Same thing with AEW. One of the major problems AEW's had for the last 2.5 years is that they went against the formula that they formed 5 years ago. They wanted to make wrestling important. And one of the major problems they had, next to the benefit of focusing on tag team wrestling. People wanted tag team wrestling. That's what they gave them. But they gave them so few stories that meant anything. When Cody left, a lot of the creative went with it, because you can tell that Cody's influence had to be there. The women's own storyline sucked. The women who are from Japan, the Joshi, I believe that's what they're called, Yoshi or Joshi, they're never booked correctly. Hiroko Shida is one of the few women they ever booked right, mainly due to the fact, since she speaks English, now they're letting her talk. Before, they wouldn't even let her talk. She rarely ever talked. They only just let her wrestle, and I'm sure she could talk English pretty decently. But they wouldn't. Emi Sakura can speak English. Mia Shirakawa can speak English. But do we hear that much? No. Do we see them in storylines? No. So when it came to AEW, they went against the formula that people wanted. And instead of keeping the formula and just adding storylines, we get this. All totally skewed out of control. Storylines are a mess. Wrestling is a mess. The tag division is not great. The trios division is not great. We got multiple tag titles. Multiple trios titles. Well, we got 2 tag titles, 2 trios titles. We got 2 world titles. We got so much. And I feel like Tony set this up as like a kitchen sink type of situation. That's what it feels like, guys. This feels like throwing the kitchen sink. That's what WWE used to do. They used to throw in the kitchen sink. They would throw everything they could at it to do a short-term pop. As I've always said, short-term gain, long-term loss. It just feels terrible. But now the situation is, what do we do now? What are we going to get from this? They did a great show, but what are we getting? Are we going to get anything great? I don't know. This is a great show, but I don't know what we're going to get. But this is just me. Tell me what you think. If I missed anything, leave a comment below. I got a long night ahead of me. I got to edit this and put images in. Peace.